It is actually a Tuesday afternoon in March in the calendar week now today at this moment. You are 22 years old at this point in your life going forward in time. You are actually standing in your own kitchen at home holding a manila envelope in your hand that arrived to you via certified mail an hour ago at the front door of your house. The manila envelope has actually your name on it written across the front of the envelope today. The return address is from a law firm in a city that you have never been to. You actually already know what is inside the manila envelope at this moment in time today. You got the call from the executor 3 weeks ago about it on your phone at home. Your great aunt, who is a woman that you have actually met only 4 times in your life, has died and left you in her will a single inheritance of $1,042,000. The total amount is actually not symbolic in any way at all in any meaningful sense today. The amount is actually what was left in her brokerage account after the estate was settled completely. You will actually be receiving the inheritance money in 2 separate parts over time today. The check in this envelope is the first installment of the inheritance from your great aunt today. The number written on the check in the envelope is actually $680,000. You have not actually opened the manila envelope yet at any point in time today. You have been actually sitting at the kitchen table looking at the envelope for 43 minutes. You are actually 22 years old at this current point in your career and life today. You actually make $28,000 a year at your very first job in your career. Your monthly rent payment is $1,200 per month at your current apartment today. You actually have $1,400 in your checking account at the bank today. You have a credit card with a balance of $3,700 on it now. In 1 hour from this current moment you will actually become on paper the wealthiest person ever. The wealthiest person in your entire family's history of generations going back many years today. In 30 days from this current moment, depending on what you actually decide today in this kitchen, you will either still be wealthy, or you will have actually begun the slow journey of becoming. The cautionary tale that your future grandchildren are actually warned about in their generation of life. This is actually what happens day by day when $1 million arrives in the kitchen at home. Of a person who was actually not built to receive the $1 million at all in any way. Day by day inside the kitchen of someone learning to navigate their entire financial life going forward. You actually open the manila envelope at 4:18 in the afternoon at home today. You hold the check in your hand for the first time at this moment in time today. The number on the check is actually real and not a dream at all in any way today. Your name is actually printed on the check itself in writing across the top of the document. You actually walk into the bedroom of your apartment after holding the check in the kitchen. You sit down on the edge of your bed in the bedroom with the check in your hand. You actually hold the check in your right hand for a long extended moment in time today. You do not actually deposit the check at any point in time during the afternoon today. You do not actually take a photograph of the check at any point in time in the afternoon. You do not text anyone in your contacts list at any point in time about the check today. This is actually the very first decision that you have to make in this entire moment today. It is actually not a financial decision at all, in any meaningful way at this moment in time. The first decision that you have to make is actually a behavioral one in nature today. The first decision is whether you actually tell anyone else about the check at this point today. Most people in the very first hour actually tell at least one other person about the news. The hour that the news gets actually shared is the hour the money begins to leak quietly. Not actually the money itself, but the version of yourself that exists privately in your own mind. Once the news is actually out in the world, you become a different person to everyone who knows. The version of you they used to actually ask about ordinary things now becomes a different version. The version of you that they ask about money and money matters in your daily life now today. You are actually no longer their friend or their cousin or their brother at all in any way. You are actually now the person with the money in their eyes from this moment forward. Once you are actually that person with the money, you cannot ever unbe that person again today. The role of the person with the money is actually completely permanent at this point in life. You do not actually tell anyone in your contacts on day 1 about the check at all today. You do not actually tell anyone on day 2 about the check at any point in time during the day. You do not actually tell anyone on day 3 about the check at any point in time during the day. The check is actually sitting on the dresser in your bedroom at home throughout the period today. You actually go to work in the morning every single day during this entire period of time today. You actually do your job at the office every single day during this entire period of waiting. You actually come home from the office every single day during the entire period of time today. You look at the check on the dresser every single evening when you come home today. You actually think about the check on the dresser every single evening at home in the bedroom. You do not actually act on the check at any point in time during the entire period. You actually do nothing at all in any way during this entire period of time at home today. Doing nothing on day one is actually the most counterintuitive decision available to you at all today. Every single part of your entire nervous system is actually screaming for you to do something today, to deposit the check, or to celebrate the moment, or to buy something with the money instead. To call someone in your contacts list, or to make the moment feel like the moment in time, the way that your imagination always told you it would feel in your dreams about it before today. The nervous system itself actually wants the catharsis of the moment to release all of the energy. The catharsis is actually the most expensive single thing money can ever buy at 22 today. You actually refuse the catharsis at this moment in time during the day at home today. You actually go to bed at the end of the day in your bedroom in your apartment alone. You actually sleep poorly during the entire night in your bedroom at the end of the day. You actually wake up the next morning at home in your bed in the bedroom alone today. It is actually Thursday in the calendar week at this current point in time today at home. The check is actually still on the dresser in your bedroom in your apartment alone today. You have not actually deposited the check at any point in time during the entire period today. You have not actually told anyone about the check at any point in time during the period. You have actually started to do something completely different from the doing nothing of recent days today. You have actually started to read about the topic of sudden inheritances at home in your time. You actually spent the last 2 evenings at home on your laptop on the kitchen table reading about what people typically actually do with sudden inheritances when they receive them in their lives. The reading itself is actually not very optimistic at all in any meaningful way during your studies. The studies are actually quite clear in their findings about what happens to people in this situation. The majority of people who actually receive sudden large inheritances actually spend the entire amount today, or actually lose the entire inheritance within 5 years of receiving it from the original source. Within 10 full years of receiving the original inheritance, the percentage is actually even much higher. The phenomenon itself is actually a specific name in the research literature in academia today. The phenomenon is actually called sudden wealth syndrome in the financial research literature today. The syndrome itself is actually not about greed at all in any meaningful way in its nature today. The syndrome itself is actually about identity at the deepest level of human psychology today. People who actually receive money that they were not psychologically prepared to receive begin doing something. Almost immediately they actually begin to make decisions that bring their bank accounts back into alignment with their internal sense of who they actually are at the deepest level of identity in their lives. You actually read this information at the kitchen table on your laptop in your apartment today. You feel the information actually land inside of you at the deepest level of your understanding today. You actually realize sitting at your own kitchen table at 11 o'clock at night in your apartment today that the actual danger here is actually not the money itself at all in any meaningful way. The actual danger here in this entire situation is actually you yourself at this moment in time. The actual danger is actually the version of yourself that you have been for 22 years now. And the gap between that version of yourself and the version that the check on the dresser implies, you should suddenly become at this point in your life going forward into the future ahead today. You actually make a single small decision on day 3 at the kitchen table at 11 at night today. The decision that you make is actually small in scope, but very large in implication for your life. The decision is actually that you will not make any major decisions for the next 27 days. You will not actually deposit the check yet at any point in time during the next 27 days. You will not actually buy anything during the next 27 days at all in any way today. You will not actually invest anything during the next 27 days at any point in time. You will not actually give anything away during the next 27 days at any point in time. You will simply learn during the next 27 days at home in your kitchen and bedroom. You will spend the next 27 days reading and thinking and learning what you should know before you actually touch this inheritance money at any point in time during your life going forward. 27 full days from this day until the deadline at the end of the period today, you actually write the deadline on a single piece of paper in your apartment at the kitchen table. You actually tape the piece of paper to the bathroom mirror in your bathroom at home today. You see the paper every single morning when you brush your teeth in the bathroom at home. This is actually the second important decision that you have made in this entire moment today. It is actually also not a financial decision at all in any meaningful way at this moment today. The second decision is actually a temporal decision in nature at this point in time today. You have actually decided to slow down a transaction that the entire world expects you to speed up. The slowing down itself is actually the most valuable single thing that you have done so far. Every single minute that you slow down is actually a minute that the impulse fades quietly within you. And every single minute that passes by is actually a minute that the strategy can begin to form in the back of your mind quietly without you actively having to think about it consciously today. It is actually Tuesday in the calendar week at this current point in time today at home. One full week has actually passed by since the manila envelope first arrived at the front door. The check is actually still on the dresser in your bedroom in your apartment at this moment. You have started a single list at the kitchen table on a piece of paper in your apartment. The list itself has actually 3 different columns drawn on the piece of paper in front of you. The first column on the list is what I actually want to do with the money in my life today. The second column on the list is what I actually should do with the money in my life today. The third column is the difference between the two and what it actually costs me to close the gap. The list itself is actually the most useful thing that you have ever written in your entire life. The very first column has actually many different items written on it in the list today. A new car for yourself, and a long trip somewhere far away from your hometown today. A down payment on a small place of your own, and helping your parents in their daily life. The second column on the list has actually fewer different items written on it in the list today. The items in the second column are actually much more boring than the items in the first column. Pay off the credit card balance and build a 6-month emergency fund in a savings account. Open a brokerage account at a major financial institution to invest the money for the long term. Open a tax-advantaged retirement account at a major financial institution for the future ahead. Read 3 books before doing anything else with the money at any point in time going forward. The third column is actually the place where the real work of the entire process happens today. The third column is actually where you confront in writing the part of yourself you have to face. That actually wants to be the person that the first column on the list describes in detail, and not the person that the second column on the list actually describes in clear writing. On day 7 of the entire period, your cousin actually calls you on your phone today. Somehow he has actually heard the news of the inheritance through someone in the family today. You do not actually know how the cousin heard the news at any point in time today. The information in families actually has its own physics that operate without your active involvement today. He actually asks you very casually on the phone if the news of the inheritance is actually true. You actually pause for a long moment in time before responding to him on the phone. You actually consider lying to your cousin on the phone for a brief moment in time today. You actually decide not to lie to your cousin at any point in time during the phone call today. You also decide actually not to confirm the news of the inheritance to your cousin on the phone today. You actually say, I am not really able to talk about it yet at any point in time today. He actually pushes back on you in response to your statement on the phone in the call. He actually says, come on and just tell me about the inheritance during the phone call today. You actually say it again to your cousin on the phone in the same exact words as before. I am not actually able to talk about it yet at any point in time during the phone call today. The cousin actually gets quiet in response on the other end of the phone call today. The cousin says okay in a single word, and then actually hangs up the phone call entirely today. You actually sit with the discomfort of that entire phone conversation for the rest of the evening today. You actually realize somewhere around midnight that the cousin's call was actually a preview today. The first preview of every single conversation that you will actually have for the rest of your life. If you do not actually develop immediately the skill of not explaining yourself to other people today, to people who actually feel entitled to your money in some way for various reasons in their lives, the skill is actually the most important non-financial skill that wealth requires of you in your life. The skill itself is actually also the hardest one to develop in your life going forward, because the skill actually goes against 22 full years of social conditioning that you have absorbed. That actually taught you to overshare with other people about your own personal life in the world, to apologize for setting boundaries with other people when they ask things from you in your life, to make other people feel comfortable at your own personal expense in the relationships of your life. You will actually develop the skill over time at your own pace going forward in your life today. You will actually develop the skill slowly over a long period of time in your daily life today. The cousin who called will not actually be the very last person to call you about the inheritance. The cousin who called is actually just the very first call out of many calls to come ahead. More family members and friends will actually call about the inheritance over the coming weeks and months today. It is actually 2 full weeks into the entire 30-day period at this current point today. The check is actually still on the dresser in your bedroom, in your apartment at this moment in time. You have actually finished reading 2 complete books during the 2-week period of time today. you did not actually finish them quickly during the period at all in any meaningful way today. You finished them very slowly during the period, taking detailed notes about the content as you read, rereading sections of the books and looking up things you did not understand on your phone today. The very first book actually taught you what compounding actually does over 40 years of investing. The numbers contained in the first book are actually not theoretical in any way at all today. The numbers in the first book are actually very specific to the exact situations being described today. The book actually showed you in clear math what would happen if the inheritance was placed in a portfolio, a low-cost diversified portfolio at the age of 22 and left alone for 40 years today. The single number at the end of the 40 years is actually so large that you read it 3 times. To make sure that you actually understood the placement of all of the commas in the number, the single number at the end of the projection is actually the future ahead of you in life today. The future itself is actually bigger than you would have guessed at 22 years old today. The compounding is actually doing most of the work in the entire 40-year projection of growth. The second book actually taught you what taxes do to wealth over the long term going forward. You learned that the worst single thing that you could do in your specific tax bracket today was actually to make sudden withdrawals from the inherited account without planning ahead of time today. You actually learned about something specifically called step-up basis in the tax code of the country. You actually learned about something specifically called the kiddie tax in the tax code of the country. You actually learned that the people who actually lose inheritances are often not the people who spend them on Lamborghinis and other expensive luxury items that they buy in their daily lives going forward today. The people who actually lose inheritances are often the people who simply did not understand the structure, the tax structure that they had actually inherited along with the money from the original source today. By day 14 of the entire period, you actually understand something that you did not understand 12 days ago. The inheritance itself is actually not a windfall at all in any meaningful way today. The inheritance is actually a structure that has its own rules in the tax code of the country today. The rules of the structure actually favor people who learn the rules of the structure carefully. The rules of the structure actually punish people who do not learn the rules of the structure today. You are actually now a person who is currently learning the rules of the structure carefully today. You are not actually yet a person who has mastered the rules of the structure at this point in time. You will not actually master the rules of the structure in only 30 days at this current pace. You will not actually master the rules of the structure in 30 full years of your life going forward. But you have actually started the entire process, which is actually more than most people who receive sudden money in their lives at any point in time during their entire lifetime ever actually do. You actually write a new single sentence in your notebook at the kitchen table at home today. The money itself is actually a test that has been given to you in your life going forward today. The test itself is actually whether you can become someone the money will actually stay with today. You actually read the single sentence 3 full times to fully absorb the meaning in your mind. You actually go to sleep at the end of the day in your bedroom at home tonight, in your bed in your apartment after a long day of reading and writing and reflecting today. You actually make your very first real decision on day 21 of the entire 30-day period today. The decision that you make is actually quite small in scope at this point in your life today. The decision is actually to deposit the check itself into a bank account at the bank today, but not actually into your existing checking account at any point in time at all today. You actually open a completely separate account at a completely separate bank from your existing bank today, specifically and exclusively for the inheritance money from your great-aunt at this point in time today. The new account is actually not connected to your debit card at all in any meaningful way today. The new account is actually not on your phone at all at any point in time today. The new account actually requires a deliberate multi-step process to access in your daily life today. The friction itself is actually the entire point of the new account structure at this point today. The friction is actually the structure protecting the inheritance money from the version of yourself today, the version of yourself that on a bad night might actually decide to do something reactive in life. The friction is actually what your great-aunt did not have to think about at any point in her life, because by the time she actually had this kind of money, she had developed the kind of restraint that did not actually require any physical barriers in her daily life going forward in time today. You do not actually yet have her kind of developed restraint at this point in your young life today. You actually compensate for the lack of personal restraint with the structure itself in your life today. The structure itself actually does the work that your discipline cannot yet do alone at this point. You also actually do something else on day 21 of the entire 30-day period in your life today. You actually hire a financial planner at this point in time in your career and your life today. Not actually a friend of a friend or someone that you got from a podcast at home today. A specific fee-only fiduciary financial planner with proper credentials in the financial services industry. You actually found her by reading very carefully and asking 3 different professionals for recommendations today. She does not actually work on commission at all, in any way at any point in time today. She actually has no incentive to sell you products at any point in time during her work. Her only single product is actually her hour of professional time and consultation services to you. You actually pay for her hour of professional time at this point in your life going forward. The hour itself is actually one of the best single decisions you make in the entire 30-day period. She tells you actually in the very first meeting at her office that her job is not to make you rich. Her job is actually to keep you from making the 7 specific mistakes that destroy most inheritances. Within a single decade of receiving them from the original source of the inheritance money today, she actually has a long list of the 7 specific mistakes that destroy most inheritances quickly. She actually walks you through the list of the 7 mistakes at the office in the meeting today. You actually take detailed notes during the meeting with her about the 7 mistakes she explains. You actually realize sitting in her professional office at the desk on day 21 of the entire period, that the inheritance is actually not just money at all in any meaningful way today. The inheritance is actually also exposure to a category of risk that you have never been exposed to before this point in time at any point during your young life going forward in time today. The risk of actually being wealthy enough in your life to be a target for various things today. A target for products and schemes and family pressure, and your own worst impulses in your daily life. The financial planner is actually the very first part of your defense against all of those threats today. You actually leave her office at the end of the meeting and drive home to your apartment today. You actually feel for the very first time in the past 3 weeks like you are not alone now, like you are not actually standing alone with the check on the dresser in your bedroom anymore today. The check itself is actually now placed inside of a structure in your life going forward today. The structure itself is actually the beginning of the rest of your life with the inheritance money today. It is actually day 28 of the entire 30-day period at this current point in time today. 2 full days are actually left in your self-imposed 30-day pause at this point in your life. You have actually done all of the deposits at the new separate bank account during the period. You have actually hired the financial planner during the period at her professional office today. You have actually read 3 more books on the subject of inheritance and money during the period. You have actually a draft of an investment plan that is actually nothing like your initial impulses today. The plan looks actually nothing like what your impulses would have produced on day 1 in the kitchen. Today you actually have to have the conversation that you have been avoiding for an entire month. The single conversation that you have been avoiding for the entire month is actually with your parents. Your parents do not actually know about the inheritance yet at any point in time today. You have not actually told your parents at any point in time during the entire month period today, because telling them is actually a decision that will change something between all of you in life. You actually wanted to be very sure of the change before you actually made it in your life. Now 28 days into the entire period you are actually fully sure of the change today. You are actually sure because you have done the work to know what you can and cannot do. You are actually sure because you have a structure that will actually hold the money safely now today. You are actually sure because you can now have the conversation from a position of knowledge today, instead of having the conversation from a position of overwhelm at this point in your life today. You actually go over to your parents' house on a Sunday afternoon at this point in time today. You actually sit down at the kitchen table at your parents' house in their family kitchen today. You actually tell your parents about the inheritance from your great-aunt at this point in time today. You actually tell your parents the total amount of the entire inheritance at this point in time. You actually tell your parents what you have done with the money in the entire first month today. You actually tell your parents what you are not going to do, and you actually tell them exactly why. Your own mother actually cries at the kitchen table when you tell her about everything today. Not actually because of the money itself or the size of the amount of the inheritance from your great-aunt, because she actually sees in the way that you talk about the money in your daily life today, that you have actually grown up in a way that she did not realize had happened yet today. Your own father is actually much quieter at the kitchen table than your mother is today. Your father actually asks you only one single question at the kitchen table on the Sunday afternoon today. Your father actually asks you what you are going to do for yourself with the inheritance money. You actually think about the question for a long moment in time at the kitchen table today. You actually say, I am going to invest most of the money in a long-term portfolio of stocks. I am actually going to pay off my credit card balance with some of the money in the account. I am actually going to put a small amount of the money into an opportunity account at the bank that I will actually use for things that will pay me back over time going forward in life today. I am actually not going to buy anything that does not actually produce something for me in return. Not yet at the age of 22 years old at this point in my life going forward today. A small opportunity fund has actually been set aside for things you may actually want to do in the next 2 to 5 years that have not actually yet revealed themselves to you today. The single word from your father is actually the most validating thing he has ever said to you in your entire life going back to your childhood and adolescence and young adulthood years today. You do not actually need anything else from your father at this point in time today at all. You actually eat dinner with your parents at the kitchen table at their house on the Sunday afternoon. You actually go home from your parents' house at the end of the Sunday afternoon in time today. You actually sleep that night more deeply than you have slept in the entire past month period. It is actually day 30 of the entire 30-day period at this current point in time today. The pause itself is actually now completely over at this point in your life going forward today. You have actually completed the entire 30 days that you promised yourself at the kitchen table. You actually sit at the kitchen table at home on a Sunday morning with a cup of coffee today. You actually take inventory of everything that you have accomplished during the entire 30-day period today. The credit card balance is actually now completely paid off at this point in your finances today. The emergency fund is actually funded with 6 full months of your living expenses at home today, in a high-yield savings account at a major financial institution that you opened during the period today. The brokerage account is actually now opened and funded with money from the inheritance source today. The initial allocation has actually been deployed across a small number of low-cost index funds today, chosen with the financial planner's professional input and guidance during the consultation meeting today. The retirement account has actually been opened and maxed out for the year already completely today. A small opportunity fund has actually been set aside for things you may actually want to do in the next 2 to 5 years that have not actually yet revealed themselves to you today. The remainder of the money, which is actually most of the inheritance, is in a structured portfolio designed to compound for 40 years with minimal interference from the current version of yourself today. You have not actually bought anything at all in any way during the entire 30-day period today. You have not actually changed your apartment at all at any point in time during the period today. You have not actually changed your car at all at any point in time during the entire period. You have not actually changed your job at all at any point in time during the entire period today. You have not actually told anyone outside of your parents and your financial planner about it today. From the outside, you actually look exactly the same as you looked 30 days ago at the start. From the inside of yourself, you are actually a completely different species of person today. You actually think about your great-aunt who passed away during the entire period of your reflection today. You actually met your great-aunt only 4 times in your entire life going back to your childhood. You did not actually know her very well at any point in time during your young life today. You actually think about the choice that she made to leave the money to you in her will, instead of to other family members who might have actually made more visible use of the inheritance. You actually think about what she might have seen in you that you did not actually see in yourself. You will actually never know exactly what she saw in you at any point in time today. She is actually gone now from the world at the time of your reflection at the kitchen table. The single choice that she made to leave you the money is actually the only message she left. You actually write something specific in your notebook at the kitchen table on day 30 today. You actually write the money was the test, and the test is over, and the work begins now today. You actually close the notebook at the kitchen table at the end of the writing in time today. You actually go for a walk outside in your neighborhood at the end of the writing today. The afternoon outside is actually bright and sunny in your neighborhood at the time of the walk today. You actually feel something inside of yourself that you have not actually felt before in your life. The feeling itself does not actually have a name at all in any way at this point today. The feeling is actually the feeling of becoming the person that the money required you to be today. Instead of becoming the person who would have actually spent the entire inheritance in 12 months, you did not actually do this perfectly at all in any way during the 30-day period today. You will not actually do the next 40 years of your life perfectly either at any point today. But you have actually proved in 30 days that you can do the slow work that wealth requires. The slow work itself is actually the entire skill at this point in your life going forward today. Everything else after the slow work is actually just execution of the entire plan you have built. $1 million at the age of 22 years old is actually not a gift at all today. $1 million at the age of 22 years old is actually a test of who you can become. The test itself is actually whether you can become someone the money will actually stay with today. Most people in the world actually fail the test of becoming someone the money will stay with today. Most people actually fail the test not because they are unintelligent in any meaningful way today. They actually fail the test because they were never given the proper tools to navigate the situation. They were never actually given the time to slow down and think through the situation carefully today. They were never actually given the structure that would allow them to navigate the entire situation today. To slow down a transaction that the entire world actually wanted them to speed up today. If you are ever actually in the kitchen at home with the manila envelope on the counter going forward, remember this single thing at the front of your mind at any point in time in your life today. Do not actually open the manila envelope on day 1 at any point in time at all today. Open the manila envelope on day 30 at the end of the 30-day period instead today. The 30-day period will actually save you the next 30 years of your life going forward. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this one on the journey of building wealth today. The next chapter is actually about how to build the same structure even when the inheritance never comes.